And while much of the attention is usually focused on Houston, the farther south you go, near the Mexican border, the worse this situation becomes. According to a 2018 study by 24/7 Wall Street, this triangle from McAllen to Edinburgh to Mission, Texas, is home to the highest poverty and unemployment rates in the U.S., with a median household income that ranks in the bottom 10% nationally. Dave Malkoff visited nearby Sebastian, where the fight against flooding is inflicting a massive financial toll.
There is a problem down on the Texas-Mexico border you may have never heard of.
The rain wasn't stopping. All the water started coming in, and I just wasn't prepared.
Massive flooding in American communities so small they may not even appear on many maps.
We've had two major floods that have affected thousands of homes. These floods have affected primarily areas known as the colonias. They might not have electricity. They might not have any kind of sewer. They might not have running water.
And that's in the United States on this side, not in Mexico.
Right.
This is Sebastian, Texas, or at least that's what they call this one taqueria town.
It's not a city or a township, okay? It's not anything.
We stopped in for loaded nachos and found neighbors who feel they've been forgotten by their own federal and state governments. In this neighborhood, homes are mostly built by hand and barely keep the rain out, let alone two major floods in 2018 and 19.
It was supposed to be just a storm, like a cold front coming through.
14 to 20 inches in a matter of hours.
And they were not named storms.
Not named storms, just a thunderstorm.
Ms. Guerrero had to move out of her home.
We stayed in an apartment for 2 months.
Many people aren't as lucky.
There was no houses here before I was.
24 years ago, Armando Guerrero moved from Chicago into this wooden shack. He's now surrounded by chickens and a cousin who lives in a tent out back. In the summer of 2019, 6 inches of flood water quickly rose to 16 inches, washing away the only insulation he had underneath his floor. In the past few months, he's raised the home by adding more blocks.
About 10 inches. Raise it up.
Since colonias aren't officially cities, they have no mayor or city hall to fight for them. Much of the help comes from faith-based groups, like Ed Sackett's Mission Presbytery.
It isn't coming from FEMA. It's coming from what we call VOADs, Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster.
Basically, they help rebuild homes in these areas. When the rain comes, Willacy County officials tell us these drainage ways push the water right past the colonias, and some of those systems have not been updated since the 1960s.
We see a huge amount of flooding in the colonias because they are the floodplain.
The United States is getting wetter. This is a look at the increase in days with 3 or more inches of rain nationwide since 1950. And Texas, as you can see, is one of those states where rainfall has been increasing over the last 70 years.
Standing water for about 5-6 days, I would say, when it started receding.
What we can't show you is all the children living here, some of them packed into tiny 2-bedroom homes.
All 9 people, 2 parents, 7 children, slept in these 2 rooms.
As you can imagine, immigration status is an issue that prevents many families from getting the help they desperately need.
Even if everybody has all their papers, they still live in fear of authorities and who might report them.
And that brings us back here to the taco shop.
600, 700 platos, casi cada año.
Owner Guadalupe Martinez reached into his own pockets to feed his community. But these floods are happening more often, and the water is taking up to 7 days to drain away.
Those that are affected the most are usually those who can least afford it.
So for the people running for president right now, including President Trump, is there a message you have from these colonias?
You do feel like you're being forgotten. We're born and raised here in South Texas. Americans, we are very patriotic. We respect our president. I may disagree with him 100%, but I respect that he's the president of the United States. When you're being stranded and you can't move around, and there's elderly people, if we can cut on the red tape and go find a way that we can help, the help comes a lot faster. 5, 6 days, 7 days, it's,
That's a long
it's a long time.